If you think your money is safe sitting in a normal checking account right now, you are making the exact same invisible mistake that wiped out millions of smart, hard-working people in 2008. The panic always starts quietly. You check your phone on a random Thursday. A push notification says a mid-sized regional bank just halted customer withdrawals. Suddenly, your chest tightens, and you are asking the one desperate question you never thought you would need to ask. Where to store your cash when banks collapse? Most people assume Warren Buffett would tell you to buy gold bars, or to buy crypto, or to stuff physical $100 bills inside a fireproof safe in your basement, but he never said that. What the greatest investor in history actually does with his cash during a nationwide financial panic is so shockingly simple it almost feels like a cheat code. And if you don't know this secret, you are the one quietly paying for everyone else's emotional mistakes. By the end of this, the way you look at your bank balance, your 401k, and your entire financial future will change forever. Let's look at why incredibly smart people always seem to panic at the exact wrong time. March 9th, 2009. Picture the smell of a local bank lobby on a cold Tuesday morning, stale coffee, damp winter coats, the harsh, relentless hum of fluorescent lights overhead. A man named David stood quietly at the teller window, holding a manila folder. David wasn't reckless. He wasn't a gambler. He had a master's degree from Ohio State. He drove a 10-year-old Honda Accord specifically to save on gas. He had exactly $40,000 sitting in a broad index fund. That money was his absolute safety net. But David was terrified. For 6 agonizing months, he had watched the stock market slowly bleed out. Every single night, the evening news played the exact same loop of men in tailored suits carrying cardboard boxes out of Lehman Brothers. The anchors were yelling. The ticker at the bottom of the screen was constantly bleeding red. The fear wasn't just on the television screen. It was sitting right there in his living room. He told his wife they had to protect what was left before it all went to zero. So he made a choice that felt entirely logical in the moment. He sold every single one of his investments at the absolute bottom of the market crash. And he locked in a devastating, permanent loss. Why? Because the acute pain of watching his account balance shrink was screaming much louder than the quiet logic of holding on. He had spent 5 grinding years slowly building that nest egg. 5 years of skipped family vacations, packed lunches, and saying no to things he wanted. That sacrifice was his sunk cost. The mental toll of watching those years of hard work evaporate was simply too heavy to carry anymore, so he pulled the cash out, took the penalty, and put the remaining $20,000 into a safe, zero-interest savings account. David didn't know it yet, but he had just made the single most destructive financial decision of his entire life. He thought he was building a protective shield around his family. But he was actually locking himself inside a cage dot. It, quote, is easy to judge David from the outside. We all like to think we would act differently. Even I had to completely unlearn this trap. When I first started managing my own money, I would nervously refresh my portfolio 10 times a day on my phone. Every red number felt like a deep personal failure. But we need to zoom out. This isn't just David's story. This exact psychological trap is happening right now to 68% of American households. You have to understand the invisible wire tripping you up before you can step over it. Behavioral scientists have a very specific name for this. They call it loss aversion. It means the psychological pain of losing $100 is biologically wired to be twice as intense as the joy of gaining $100. You are literally hardwired by human evolution to panic when resources are threatened. Warren Buffett calls this urge the most expensive emotion in investing. When fear hits the financial system, logic immediately leaves the room. Let's look at the hard numbers. According to a massive multi-year internal study conducted by Fidelity, they looked at which accounts performed the absolute best over a 10-year period. The results were shocking. The winners weren't day traders. They weren't hedge fund managers. The best investors were the ones who literally forgot they even had an account. Let that sink in. Dead people and absent-minded people beat the active, stressed-out traders. Why? Because they couldn't react to bad news. They couldn't log in and panic. They weren't desperately Googling where to store your cash when banks collapse. Let's zoom even deeper into history. In 1973, the American stock market crashed nearly 50%. It was a brutal, terrifying time. Inflation was eating the purchasing power of the U.S., dollar alive. People were frantically hoarding physical cash in floor safes. But what did Warren Buffett do? He didn't panic. He didn't buy gold. He calmly looked at the burning wreckage of the market and bought massive shares in a company called the Washington Post for a tiny fraction of what it was actually worth. He knew that holding pure paper money during a massive economic crisis is like holding an ice cube in the desert sun. It will melt. It is mathematically guaranteed to melt. Here is the fiercely unpopular opinion that your local financial advisor probably won't tell you. Your cash emergency fund isn't a vault. It's a leaky bucket. With average inflation sitting anywhere near 3 or 4%, your stored cash is quietly losing its real-world purchasing power every single hour of the day. When a regional bank fails, the mainstream media acts like it's the season finale of The Walking Dead. Everyone scrambles. Everyone wonders where to store your cash when banks collapse. But the system is already designed to protect everyday depositors up to $250,000 through the FDIC. The true danger isn't the bank going out of business. The true danger is your own brain tricking you into selling your assets to hold cash that is guaranteed to lose value. You work way too hard to let a sensationalized news headline rob you of your future. You are currently playing a high-stakes game with rules you were never formally taught. But once you see the board clearly, the fear completely vanishes. Before I show you the exact fix, if this perspective is already hitting different, hit subscribe. The compound wisdom drops this kind of quiet factual insight every single week. Now, here is what the smartest investors figure out early, and what most people never figure out at all. The fundamental principle that changes everything is called productive capital. Most everyday people think cash is a noun. They think it's a static thing you simply possess. But the greatest investors in the world know that cash is a verb. It must do something. It must work. When the headlines scream about bank runs and financial ruin, the amateur looks for a mattress to hide under. The professional looks for a machine to buy. Let's bring this directly into your living room. You likely have a 401k through your employer. Maybe you set up a Roth IRA. You definitely have some cash sitting in a standard checking account at Bank of America or Chase or Wells Fargo. You are terrified that if the banking system goes under, your life savings vanishes into thin air. But here is the profound reality that Warren Buffett understands and uses to his advantage every single decade. A bank is just a temporary middleman. When you hold productive assets, like fractional pieces of great American businesses through an S&P 500 index fund, you bypass the middleman entirely. You own the wealth-generating machine itself. If a massive bank collapses tomorrow morning, Coca-Cola still sells millions of cans of soda by the afternoon. Apple still sells iPhones to people all over the globe. People still go to the store to buy toothpaste, toilet paper, and blood pressure medicine. The intrinsic value of those massive global companies does not magically evaporate just because a regional bank manager in Ohio made a terrible over-leveraged bet on commercial real estate. So, you are asking where to store your cash when banks collapse. You don't store it. You deploy it. You immediately turn it into something the federal government cannot print more of. Look at the stark before and after of this mindset shift. The person who hoards pure cash during a crisis feels a false sense of safety for about a week. But 10 years later, compounding inflation has quietly stolen 30 to 40% of their total wealth. They are significantly poorer, their grocery bills are higher, and they don't even understand why they feel so behind. Now look at the person who deeply understands and applies the productive capital principle. During the 2020 global panic, when the entire world literally shut its doors and the market cratered by 30% in a month, the smart money didn't hide. They aggressively bought. They bought broad index funds. They bought fractional shares of highly profitable companies. They understood a historical truth. The United States economy has survived world wars, global pandemics, massive inflation spikes, and Great Depressions. The long-term trend line always goes up and to the right, even if the daily line looks like a terrifying, jagged roller coaster. Here are 3 exact, actionable things you can do this week to build this psychological and financial fortress around yourself. Step 1. Strictly separate your daily operating cash from your long-term wealth. You only need enough pure liquid cash to cover 3 to 6 months of absolute baseline survival expenses, rent, groceries. Keep that specific money in a high-yield savings account or a short-term treasury bill. The federal government backs it. It is fundamentally safe from bank runs. Step 2. Automate the wealth machine. Log into your Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab account today. Set up an automatic recurring transfer of $50 or $100 every single week into a low-cost, broad market index fund. Do not look at the daily price. Do not read the financial news. Just let the relentless machine run in the background of your life. Step 3. Shift your core mindset from saving money to owning assets. And every single time you buy a share of an index fund, you are buying a tiny, permanent fraction of human progress. You are essentially hiring thousands of the smartest engineers, the most ruthless marketers, and the most driven CEOs in the world to wake up every single day and work to make you richer. That is the ultimate secret. That is the fundamental truth that takes Warren Buffett 60 years to prove to the world, but takes you exactly 60 seconds to apply to your own life today. Think back to David standing in that bank lobby. If David had simply closed his eyes, completely ignored the screaming news anchors, and left his $40,000 untouched in that index fund in 2009, by 2019 he would have naturally grown that money to over $150,000. He didn't lose his life savings because the financial market broke. He lost his money because his own psychology broke under the pressure. You are not David, or maybe you were David in the past, but you aren't anymore. You are not someone who just gets chronically unlucky. You are not someone who is doomed to clock in and work until you are 75 years old simply because the financial system feels heavily rigged against the working class. The system is complex, yes, but it is entirely predictable once you know what to look for. You were simply never taught this in school. Your parents likely didn't know this. Your high school teachers definitely didn't know this, but now you know. And that single piece of knowledge changes absolutely everything about your trajectory. So you no longer have to panic when a news anchor raises their voice to sell advertisements. You no longer have to lay awake at 2 a.m. wondering if your hard-earned money is actually safe, because you finally understand that true financial safety does not come from desperately hiding your cash under a mattress. True generational safety comes from owning the productive businesses that run the world. You have officially crossed the invisible line. You have stopped acting like a scared consumer. You have started thinking like a rational owner. That quiet, deep confidence you feel building right now, that is the exact edge you have been looking for your entire life. Now you know exactly why incredibly smart people lose money during a crisis and how to permanently stop being the victim of a panicked, irrational market. But here is what is even more dangerous, and it's happening while the market is perfectly calm. There is a silent, completely legal wealth killer sitting quietly inside almost every single American retirement account right now, and almost nobody on mainstream television is talking about it. It's a hidden fee structure that looks absolutely tiny on a paper statement, but is mathematically designed to legally steal up to 1/3 of your entire life savings by the time you are ready to retire. In my next video, I am going to expose exactly how to find it hidden in your paperwork and exactly how to kill it before it drains your future. That's the next video. If the compound wisdom helped you think differently today, subscribe. Share this specific video with one person who desperately needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.